Tuesday, February 22nd, correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Monday, February 22nd. The pledge.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilwoman Alexander.
Today I just ask that we have a moment of silence for the over 500,000 people that have lost their lives to coronavirus already, if we can do that.
Thank you. Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander,
Yes, present.
Spitelli,
Here.
Venez,
Here.
Kowinski,
Here.
Torres,
Here.
Tyler,
Present.
Emerson,
Here.
Rakels,
Here.
Warple.
Here, let the record show 9 present, 3 in person, 6 by electronically. Mayor?
Hi, Mr. President.
How you doing?
Good, how you doing? Members of the council, thanks for inviting me here. I just wanted to give a quick update on a couple items of interest involving the Hammond Council, and I'm available to answer any questions if you have any. First in your packets is the long-awaited distribution of the 2020 gaming revenues. We said it was going to be right around $4 million. Unfortunately, it was closer to $4 million. That we ended 2020 in the black for the first time. I mean, literally with $4 million in the bank for, I don't know, as long as I've been mayor, we've never had $4 million in the bank at the end of the year. So we distributed the money according to the ordinance we all approved, where 62% of the leftover money goes to the Capital Improvement Board, which is approximately $2.5 million. Mayor's discretionary is 15%, which is about $610,000. District's discretionary money of 15% to each district is $101,500. Gaming Advisory Committee gets $162,000 immediately. Rainy Day Fund gets $162,000 immediately. This money is available for the council and for the mayor and for the Capital Improvement Board at this moment. With regard to the Capital Improvement Board, I know the council is very involved in this. They have a lot of projects in the queue, and they have $2.5 million. So obviously, we have to figure out payment streams and trying to make the projects that we all want to get done fit with the actual amount of revenue we have. I want to remind the council again, we're spending backwards, which is great. We did the hard part in 2020 during the pandemic. This is money we're spending that's sitting in the bank, and it's going to take, so like, let's say, for instance, the mayor's $610,000. I've committed $100,000 of that to police cameras, right? But that money's not spent yet. We're buying these cameras, we're in the process of buying them, but it's still sitting in the bank account. So even though I have this money and I'm spending the money on a great project, it's sitting in the bank account, and instead of the way we used to do it is January 1st, we'd spend that money and it'd be gone before it is even in Megan's bank account. So we did the hard part, and we're spending backwards. So, you know, the $2.5 million in the Capital Improvement Board, it's going to take them a while to spend that $2.5 million, even though they have a lot of great projects. So by doing it the way we do this now, it's going to artificially inflate all of our account balances, which makes us look financially stronger, which when it comes to bond review, which when it comes to State Board of Account audits, it makes our city look better. And it is better because we have money literally sitting in the bank account instead of spending money we anticipate getting. So before I move on to the next subject, I wanted to see if the council had any questions on this. The next distribution will be at the end of the first quarter. I imagine that the number is going to be significantly higher than this one. I don't know if that's true. I mean, if I did quick math, we do gross about $30 million of gaming a year. Divided by 4, it's about $7.5 million per report. And then, of course, that's gross. Then you have to net it out. So I imagine we'll be getting numbers like this quarterly. And I know it's not a lot of money right now, putting $2.5 million in the capital improvement board, but when you keep putting $2.5 million every quarter into it, it starts making the board members' jobs a lot easier. So you'll be getting another report like this. This is the first forum. If you guys don't like this format, let's talk about it, because hopefully once we all agree on the format, we just keep on doing them every quarter. So every quarter you should be seeing this report come to you. Megan's been working real hard on this, so I'm open to answering any questions you have on this.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Torres?
You said next quarter.
Yes, sir.
March?
Yeah. I mean, the quarter closes out March 31st, so I imagine by April 15th, in that ballpark.
Okay.
Sooner than it took this year, Councilman.
Yeah, approximate time.
This is too late this quarter, okay? And we're not going to be 2 months late, right, Controller? The hard part was, and thank you very much, Megan, I appreciate you putting her on the spot, but we came up with this is the first time we did it. It's only going to get easier for us, okay? So I imagine a couple weeks into the new quarter, Councilman, you should be getting this report. Okay? Thank you. Any other questions on this?
Mr. President,
Councilman Emerson?
I'm wondering if there's any predictions on how the casino will do this year.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilman Emerson. They do these routine newspaper articles. I know you still get the paper, probably. I do too. Not everybody does, but it seems like about every month they do an article that compares gaming revenues to the previous year, and it's like a routine article that's in there all the time. And, I know our boat's down year over year. I mean, when you think about last February, we were doing better than we are this February because we weren't wearing masks and we weren't social distancing. So I imagine year over year in January and February, we were down. But year over year in March, they shut down the casino, I don't know, mid-March. So when we compare year over year, Councilman, we're down this year. But that doesn't mean it's going to be zero, of course. So maybe instead of getting $34 million a year, we get $28, $29 million a year. Maybe it's a couple bucks less, maybe it's a couple bucks more, but we're definitely down year over year, and hopefully we'll recover from that. But I imagine they'll be a little bit lower than we're used to seeing because we're in a pandemic. And I know when I go to the boat, I don't gamble, you know that, but I go there to meet with the CEO, and you walk through there, and there's people there, but I remember it being a lot more crowded back in the day. And then, into the future, the Hard Rock's about to come online, and I'm sure they're going to compete well with us. And then a couple of years into the future, casinos in Chicago and the Chicago suburbs are going to open. So our future is water, Councilman. I love the gaming. I'm not taking it for granted, but our future is water. And we're going to talk about that when we get done talking about this subject. So,
Yeah, the only thing I'd add, Mayor, is I did get the paper, and now I just do online because it got so exorbitantly high,
yeah.
the cost. And the Post, too, I read online, but sometimes that doesn't work out. But anyway.
Yeah, they don't have tax caps in the media like we have on government. So thank you, Councilman. Any other questions on the gaming report? Okay, I do again want to apologize before I move on to the next. It took too long this quarter. It's not going to be like this all the time. We were figuring it out brand new. So next, I'd like to report to the council on something. I know some of you have probably heard, I put the word out through the council president last Friday, 3 days ago, we settled the water litigation with the customer communities. Hammond Water Department settled the water lawsuit. As a reminder to the council passed water rate increase. We talked a lot about, obviously, how it would affect our residents, and it does affect our residents, there's no doubt about it. But it also affected our customer communities' contracts because their water rates are set to what the Hammond resident pays. So because we changed the water rate in the city of Hammond, it automatically changed our customer community's contracts, and then they filed a lawsuit against us, which was anticipated. We told you guys when we were contemplating the rate, we were probably going to get sued, and our prediction came true. We were sued by Whiting, we were sued by Highland, we were sued by Dyer, we were sued by Munster, we were sued by Griffith. And then it was Hammond Water against all those communities. And, these customer communities obviously were very upset about the rate increase, and quite frankly, we talked a lot about the impact it was going to have on cities where we would sell, let's say Highland, for instance. We sell Highland water for 50 cents for 1,000 gallons, and then they charge our residents $3 plus for the same water. So they're making millions of dollars of revenue, and I'm not saying they're not spending it on infrastructure. They probably are spending a good portion on infrastructure, but you can't tell me that they're not using that in their general fund. I just don't believe it. Okay, they could tell me that, but I just don't believe them. I think when you're making millions of dollars off of something you get for basically nothing, that they're using that to help finance our government, which is fine, God bless, but take it up with your citizens. What Hammond did was charge them a wholesale water rate, and it's a lot higher than what they're used to paying, and what that does is it cuts into their profit, the profit that they rely on so that they can run their city, and they didn't take it very well, okay? So we were sued by all the committees I mentioned. We had great attorneys representing the city of Hammond, led by corporate counsel Kevin Smith, who I want to thank very much. He literally ate, sleep, and breathed this case for, I don't know, when did we get sued?
Late November, early December.
Yeah, so thank you, corporate counsel, thank you very much. It's a massive settlement that we had, and there's going to be some actions required of the council to enact what we call a wholesale rate, which is fair. One of the biggest concerns in the lawsuit was, so Hammond residents are going to pay $1.90 for 1,000 gallons, okay? Now, when we sell water to Highland, should we charge Highland $1.90 for 1,000 gallons, even though their residents are paying $3 plus? Well, Highland pushes back, not just Highland, but I'm saying Highland, but in this case, the class pushed back and said, if you're charging Hammond residents $1.90, we shouldn't have to pay $1.90 because a lot of your infrastructure is like Knickerbocker Parkway, where I live. Like Highland feels we shouldn't have to pay for infrastructure improvements on Knickerbocker Parkway or on Magoon or on any of other Tapper or on any other residential street in the city of Hammond. That's something that the Hammond water utilities should pay for. So one of the big things that came out of this litigation was you need to have a separate rate for customer communities. That's something we had to consider. Let me also tell you how it affects you guys and me as mayor and as council members. As you all know, we have contracts with Illinois communities. When the mayor buys, Hammond Water can't sell water to Chicago Heights or Cal City or Lansing or any of the other places we want to sell water. It has to be the mayor because Hammond Water Utility is Indiana only. They can't sell water outside of Indiana because they're under Indiana's jurisdiction. So for them to be able to sell water to Chicago Heights, legally, the mayor of Hammond buys water from the Hammond Water Utility at the wholesale rate, which was 46 cents, and I sell it in Illinois for $2.50. And the millions of dollars we make on those water sales comes back to the city of Hammond's general fund. This became a huge bone of contention in the lawsuit. Dirty, nasty stuff. And I will never forgive some of the people involved in this. And I'm going to tell Hammond residents who they are when they want to speak up. I promise you. The class actually floated a bill with the Republican supermajority that tried to disgorge all the money that we've ever sold in Illinois for operating a shadow public utility. I know who did it. I know what they were trying to do. And if that passed the Republican supermajority, it would have devastated Hammond. I'm talking $100 million, Kevin? More? They were literally trying to get every penny that we've ever sold in Illinois, ever. Going back to the 70s, which is when we started selling water in Illinois, which had been approved by the IURC, which has been acknowledged by the governor at the time and all that. But this person floated a bill with a certain legislator who called me immediately and said, I got this bill, so-and-so gave it to me, Mayor. What do you think about it? I said, Representative, if you guys pass that bill, Hammond goes bankrupt. You hit us for a $100 million bill? That's how vindictive the customer communities were in this lawsuit. I'm sure Kevin's super uncomfortable that I'm talking about this. But I know who did it. I know what they were trying to do, and they were trying to kill us. So we reached the deal over the next 10 years. Obviously, that bill didn't go anywhere. And I'm going to read off some of the terms of the deal, if you don't mind. And then I'll be available to answer any questions. And quite frankly, I'm never going to talk about this damn case again. Not a goddamn time, I'm telling you right now. I'm not going to say a damn word about it. This is the only time with you guys, my bosses, okay? If somebody asks me on the street, maybe I'll talk to them on the street. This is it. I'm not talking about it on the record, nothing. This is it, as far as I'm concerned. I don't want to talk about this again. Parties have reached a settlement in principle that will resolve the litigation and establish a wholesale rate with our neighboring communities. The agreement is for an initial 10-year period all of the communities will be on the same deal, including Griffith, who is out of contract. And we were very nice, by the way, of keeping Griffith on through this whole thing. They were out of contract for close to 2 years, and we never threatened to cut them off. We were like, we need to get this done, Griffith. Come on now, you're out of contract. So under this deal, everybody in the class, Whiting, Griffith, Highland, Munster, Dyer, and the mayor, because I'm a wholesale buyer also, we all get, well, I never sued you guys, by the way, okay? I never sued the city of Hammond as mayor, but everybody gets new 10-year contracts, okay? Then they have a deal where you could get a second 10-year contract also, and it's at a certain percentage, and that's into the weeds. So basically, they have the option to keep buying Hammond water for the next 20 years. Under the agreement, the customer communities will begin paying nearly double what they had been paying with their wholesale rates, continuing to increase over time to nearly 70% of the residential retail rate. This rate will also be paid by the city of Hammond, me, to the waterworks for all Illinois contracts. This is an important point. When we set the rate at $1.90 for the Hammond residents, you set the rate at $1.90 for all the customer communities. They sued us, and on me as mayor when I sell water in Illinois. So now I sell water in Illinois, I buy it for $1.90, I sell it for $2.50. The profit that we're used to getting in the Civil City from those sales are gone. All the money's going to the water company, which is fine. So by setting a new, what we call a wholesale rate, has to be approved by the council if we're going to do this. And if you guys don't, then we have legal issues to work out. But the wholesale rate, if it's approved by the Hammond Council, would apply to the mayor for water sales in Illinois, which comes back to the general fund on the Illinois water sales. So right now, keep in mind the residents, so Hammond residents paying $1.90 for 1,000 gallons. The residents of Griffith are paying $3.78 for the same water. Munster, $3.13. So when those communities start raising their water rates on their residents, they're going to blame us. They're going to blame me. Mayor McDermott made us pay more water rates in Highland and Griffith. No, that's not true. They're going to say it, but it's not true. What they don't want to say is, we rely on your money to run our government, and it's going away now, and we have to figure out how to keep government running. They don't want to say that, but they will. If I'm going to talk about this the last time, I may as well make it a doozy, right? The average monthly water bill for Hammond residential customers remains the lowest in the state of Indiana, $1.90 per 1,000 gallons. The settlement has brought certainty and reduced litigation expenses to our city, permitting Hammond sales to Illinois customers to continue without being questioned. This settlement, every party acknowledges that we sell water in Illinois. Every party acknowledges that they're not going to contest that with the Republican supermajority. Every party acknowledges that if they try to compete with us, like they sell water or they allow other people in, that they're not going to continue to buy water from us. Is that the right way?
Yeah, they just have to give us notice.
But then they have to get out of the contract, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's in the weeds a little bit.
Okay. If the litigation was not settled, the litigation process could have taken years to resolve with almost certain prospect of appeals, which would have limited the water department's ability to bond for necessary capital improvements that we need right now. I think the settlement's good for both Hammond and our neighbors and results in increased revenue for our water department that's long overdue. The fact is, the impact on if we approve the wholesale rates as we present to you, which is basically mirrored, we literally, over a 20-year period, negotiated every year, 1 through 20, with 5 cities, and the city of Hammond being represented by corporate counsel, being represented by Shauna Levinson, who's the water department attorney, being represented by Fagery, Baker, and Daniels, being represented by Icorn and Icorn. And we were up against all of the big boys in Indiana. And I don't mean to be sexist by saying big boys. All the largest law firms in Indiana. We're representing each customer community, all of them against us. The first Zoom we had, it was all by Zoom. We had a mediation on Zoom. There was a screen. It looked like your council meeting times 3 with the number of bubbles up there. And everybody on the screen was suing us except for like 3 or 4 bubbles. Everybody on the screen was suing the city of Hammond. So these rates that we're going to give to you, that we're calling the wholesale rate, have been extensively negotiated every year. So like, obviously, if you have a problem, you have the right to vote against it. But if you're like, hey, can we change year 4? If you want to go back to that quagmire I just got out of and like get all these classes together and say, hey, we don't like year 4, I mean, you have the right to do that. Of course, you're a council member. But I don't want you to think like these things haven't been thought out. They've been poured over. Each number that we're going to give you has been negotiated each year. It was a pain in the butt, I'll be honest with you. But at the end of the day, so I'm going to talk in 10-year numbers. The customer communities in 10-year numbers paid us about $1.5 million a year at the old rate, the 46 cents, which is about $15 million over 10 years, right? The retail rate, 100% after what we passed, if we said, forget you Highland, forget you Griffith, forget you Munster, Dyer, and Whiting, you're paying 100% of what Hammond residents paid, we could have taken that course. We probably wouldn't be before you right now with the settlement if we did that. I know we wouldn't be. We'd be going to court with Judge Hawkins. And then if we won or lost there, we'd be appealing and going to the Court of Appeals. And then if we won or lost there, we'd be appealing and go to the Supreme Court. Like, this thing wasn't getting settled unless we agreed. If we charged them 100% over 10 years, they would have paid $73 million. So it would have gone from $15 million to $73 million. In Chicago, we charge 88%. Those are our Illinois models. In Illinois, why do people buy water from Hammond? We charge 88% of what Chicago does. So if Chicago charges you $1, we charge you 88 cents. And you go to us because 88 cents times 12 zeros is a lot of money, which is what we're talking about. If we charge 88%, it would have been $64 million over 10 years, which is still a major increase. What we agreed on in the wholesale rate was the compromise was $43 million over 10 years. Starts now, year 1, which is 3 times more than they were making over the first 10 years. Over the second 10 years, it's more like, I don't know, 5 or 6 times what they were making in the second 10 years. Because in the first 10 years, it steps up. Like we knew, we passed the new water rate in November, Kevin? Yes. You passed the water rate in November. Now, we all know what happens in municipal budgets in November. Well, in September, October, November, you're making budgets. So how fair is it that Hammond comes along and says, hey, customer communities, we quadrupled your rates, and you owe us $5 million instead of $1 million, right? So we all knew that we were going to have to phase it in, and quite frankly, to avoid litigation, we were offering what ended up becoming the settlement. We need to phase this in. Let's just agree what the numbers are over 10 years. So under this proposal, starting January 1st, 2021, going backwards, all the customer communities pay double for the first 2 years, and then it goes higher and higher. Mayor Hammond, if you set the wholesale rate, we're going to be approaching you next meeting with a wholesale rate ordinance. And if you pass the wholesale rate ordinance, that would apply to the mayor as well, meaning I would pay 95 cents for water that I used to pay 46 cents for. So I double the amount of water revenue I send to the the Hammond Water Department, but I'm still selling water in Illinois for $2.50. So we're making more revenue under that scenario as well. So I know it's very complex what I just told you, but the litigation was complex and we put a lot of work into it, and I'm really happy with the result, I'll be honest. We tripled the rate. I'm talking the money that we used to get is going to be significantly higher, and it's not ever going to go down again. It's set in stone for the next 20 years. So when we bring the wholesale rate to you, I hope you keep an open mind, because it was extensively litigated. And if we want to go back to that, it's a fight that it could take a few years. That's not any BS. This is certainty, like today, for the next 20 years. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on this, and I'm sorry I've taken so long, Mr. Chairman, but I had a lot to talk about today. I mean, Mr. President.
Councilman Torres?
So when are the profits going to be reflected?
Well, just keep in mind, Councilman, the IURC told us it costs $1.25 to make 1,000 gallons of water. So we're still not going to be at that rate for a couple of years with our wholesale customers. A couple of years. But it's our own fault because we didn't raise rates for 35 years. So like, the thing is, let's say if we would have said customer communities, the first year has got to be, as opposed, the first 2 years, 95 cents under the wholesale rate that we agreed on and that we'll be submitting to you guys. If we would have said, sorry, $1.25 has got to be the first 2 years, I don't know if we'd be here. Maybe we would, I doubt it, because the first 2 years were the most sensitive. Like, we doubled our rates, you know, like with no notice. And I'm talking, when I say they, we're talking the customer communities, because you double my rates as a Hammond resident, I paid $5 extra last month, right? When you double a rate to a customer community, you're talking millions of dollars. And if you go up to Highland and say, hey, I know you weren't expecting to give us $2 million, but you owe us $2 million now, it's just not realistic to think that we could drop a bomb in November and get paid like that. So what we agreed upon, I think, was very fair, Councilman. But it'll take a few years to get to $1.25. You'll see the rate. I'm sorry I don't have it ready, but we reached settlement Friday, and they're still preparing the documents right now. But I wanted you all to know what's going on, because obviously it's a major case. And you're paying the bills. The bills are coming through. Any other questions?
President.
Please, yeah, don't be shy.
Go ahead, Councilman Emerson, then you, Councilman Kowinski.
The one thing, that I was really scared when you said Republican majority, but I'm glad that kind of worked out. That's scary.
It's not.
Anytime I hear that, it's scary, but that's really scary.
Councilman Emerson, it wasn't just scary. It was mean. It was like sadistic, like, we're going to ruin you, Hammond, Bill. It would have been, and I will never forgive this person. Never. And I swallowed my pride and I bit my tongue. I didn't say crap during this because I couldn't. Because if I piss him off, we're not standing in front of you right now. We're going to court. So I swallowed my pride and I bit my tongue, but I know who this person is. And I know what they did and I know what the bill said, because the legislator called me right after they got it and said, was given to me by so-and-so. I'm not getting in the middle of this lawsuit. These guys think they're crazy if they think I'm going to do something with this. And I appreciate that, legislator. Representative Soliday, by the way.
Okay.
Representative Soliday, thank you, Representative Soliday, for reaching out to the city of Hammond and giving us a heads up that somebody's trying to chop our heads off. I appreciate you, Representative Soliday, for giving me a heads up. He's a stand-up person. He was watching out for the city of Hammond in a Republican supermajority. He's a Republican from Valparaiso, and he watched out for the city of Hammond. Thank you, Representative Soliday, for giving me the heads up. He called me the day he got the bill, and I appreciate that. He didn't have to do that. And if it starts getting traction in that General Assembly, we got major problems, because then they're calling into question the water sales to Illinois. That's one of the things that's our lifeline, guys. This is lifeline for the next 100 years. Our water sales in Illinois, and they're trying to kill us for it. I'll never forgive them. And they're going to be one of our customers for 20 more years. That's the classic part.
Councilman Kowinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mayor, I know that at the beginning of all these negotiations, we were talking and you thought it was an error to wait so long to renew contracts, the 35 years or whatever a limit it was. Mm-hmm. Are you concerned at all about these 10 and 10 maybe being too long as well, or are you comfortable with what you did?
Thank you, Councilman Mark. And once you see what we're talking about, and I apologize again, Councilman Mark, I just want to give you guys the latest news. We don't have the ordinance ready to go in front of you now, but the first 10 years, you'll see 7 or 8 increases in rate in the first 10 years, okay? The second 10 years is based on a percentage of what Hammond residents pay, and that's in control of the mayor and in the Hammond City Council in a lot of respects. Obviously, we want to do infrastructure studies and things of that nature, okay? The second 10 years, if a Hammond residence rate is higher, it's based on a percentage of the Hammond residence rate. Kevin, what's the percentage in the second 10 years? 69.5% in the second 10 years, Councilman Mark. So let's say in the second 10 years, we found ourselves in a similar situation, Councilman Mark, where our residents are way too low and our customer communities' rates are way too low. That would be in the control of the mayor and the Hammond City Council in the second 10 years to rectify that problem.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
It's just hard to hear and follow without the figures in front of you, so
of course.
I'm kind of in the dark here, but
of course,
okay.
Councilman Mark. And I apologize again, Councilman Mark. I wanted you guys to know, because you guys are my boss, and I wanted you to know we reached settlement, but it was just a couple days. I mean, it was one work day ago we reached settlement. It's a massive case, okay? So I'm just giving you the freshest news I can give you, and I promise you when you see the numbers, you'll see what I'm talking about, and I apologize again for not having them, Councilman Kowinski.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And just before anybody else, Mayor, you did call me on Friday, and I didn't call my colleagues because I didn't understand it. We just had a real brief conversation.
Yes, sir.
That you said that you were on the brink of it or you had done
Councilman
it.
Dave, I've been living this. Kevin's been living it. We had a water litigation team. It was Kevin, could you come up and recognize the team, please?
Well, I guess the question I wanted to ask you, as I understood it, is there could have been a court injunction that wouldn't even allowed us to raise our rates on our own. I mean, we could have been, this could have been litigated forever, correct? Is
Yeah,
that-
yeah, it could have gone on for a few years.
Yeah.
But, you know, we had a great team that worked real hard, and I want Kevin to recognize everybody so that I don't mess it up.
Okay.
Thanks, Mayor, and I appreciate all the comments by both the mayor and the council. Our team was, of course, the folks that represented the waterworks were Shauna Levinson, who's the waterworks attorney, and the folks down at Fagery, Baker Daniels, which is led by Scott Chin, who's done all kinds of utility work for the city for some time, including the Chicago Heights litigation several years ago in 2012. His partner, Jane Dahl Wilson, and their partners, Ann Rasciuto, and their associate, Suzanne Johnson. And also on the city side was represented by myself and David Jensen at Icorn. And I can't tell you how nice it is for the city to have such attorneys with such good utility experience. David Jensen at Icorn, you know, they were corporate counsel, general counsel for NIPSCO in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so his knowledge about utility cases and rate cases was substantial. I'd be remiss if I didn't also thank Mark McLaughlin and Jaime Prieto at the Waterworks, as well as all the folks at Waterworks that helped, their staff in the accounting area, the gentleman out at the plant helped get our folks ready for depositions, and Carl Sender was our expert, and he did a great job as well. I did want to just mention one other thing that Councilman Mark mentioned in his question, and his question to the mayor was, why are these long-term contracts important? I can tell you this, Councilman Kowinski, from a bonding standpoint and from the ability for the waterworks to plan, now the waterworks can say to anyone that they need money from to do capital improvements, they can say, now we have this set revenue stream. And that's a very, very important thing for the waterworks to do. So I just want to thank the council for their support and the mayor. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for the mayor? Oh, go ahead.
One more person we want to thank, our former city controller, Heather Gray, went through a 7-hour deposition the other day. I mean, she did a great job for us too, but 7-hour dep, that's what I was talking about. It was, and I was trying to go back to something I said to you earlier, Councilman, was I was telling you about the settlement, but for me, it's like we've been living this for the last few months. So like for me to like rattle it off, I think everybody understands what I'm saying, and because I've been dealing with this every day.
No, I get it. It's just that I didn't want them thinking I kept anything from them because I didn't understand the brief conversation.
We have an agreement in principle. The Hammond Council has to ratify it basically by setting the wholesale rate. And if you don't ratify it, that's your signal that this is not going to work and we got problems. Not that I will do my job, but I think just having this before you is really doing my job the best way I could have. Just the fact that I have a settlement before you instead of litigating for the next 2 years is huge, in my opinion. And going back to what Kevin said, for the next 20 years, the Hammond Water Utility needs to do, I don't know, $50 million in infrastructure, and they have a rate system that allows them to go out and bond, and they could do things like the mains that need to be replaced because they're over 100 years old and stuff like that. We have the revenue to do it now. When a water tank breaks down, we're not going to have to go to the city council and go to a TIF district and try to pay for it ourselves. Those are gone. They're in the past. Water department is properly financed. And, you know, obviously we have one more step, and that's going to be presenting you at the next council meeting with the wholesale rate on first and second reading, and then obviously 2 weeks later on third and final. I want to remind any Hammond resident, this has nothing to do with your rates at all. This is all about water sales to our customer communities. And like, all right, so anyway, any other questions? I'm sorry it takes so long.
Councilman Torres?
Mr. President, thank you. I just want to thank the Attorney Smith and the team that represented Hammond.
Thank
and
you.
of course yourself, Mayor.
Thanks,
Thank
Councilman.
you for biting your tongue.
Doesn't happen often.
And I hope nothing evil happens to Representative
Yeah.
Sullivan.
No, Representative Soliday did a huge favor for our city. I appreciate him. He didn't have to call. And not only did he call, he put my mind at ease because the bill was scary. It was like one of those bills you're like, I can't believe somebody put this even in writing. It was so bad. And by the way, this is a person that one day may be coming to Hammond for issues. So I'm just going to keep on watching and waiting, and I promise you, when that happens, I'm going to let everybody know. And I'll keep biting my tongue until then.
Mr. President,
Councilman Kowinski.
this is still water related, so I was just following up to see, have monthly bills now, are they in practice for the water department?
I believe so, Councilman. I know that I know that they have the extra staff hired. Does anybody know that they are? Yeah, they are.
Okay, and the next question is, anything new about looking into getting that charge waived for water when you're getting it off your check or debit or bank?
That's happening also, Councilman.
Last meeting, you said they were looking into that.
I have no other further update other than it's happening. That's what Kevin? Megan said it also, that it's happening. I haven't checked myself, Councilman, but that appears that we're moving forward on that.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know that Councilman Barry and Councilwoman Katrina have talked in the past about people that can't pay their bills. We are working with people, and quite frankly, it's not really that common, but when it does happen, I literally have a staff member, that's their job. That's one of their jobs, is to deal with situations like that. Going back to something that Councilman Barry and Councilwoman Katrina brought up in previous meetings. It's really not as big as we anticipated. Like my house was $5 extra.
Yeah, that's a different issue. I was just
Yes, sir.
saying the charge you get when you you pay by debit or whatever, now it's going to be every month if we don't get that fixed
We're on
or
it.
waived or whatever.
I will follow up again tomorrow, Councilman, but Megan's telling me it's done already, Councilman, so. And I
Great.
would be surprised if it wasn't, because the water department watches the council meetings, everybody pays attention to what's going on here.
I do know that even back to the days before I got here, for like the last 10 years, they've been putting in the automated readers on the water meters. And I just got mine last month when my wife reminded me, first time I ever listened to her, but she reminded me that we never got our meter changed over, and that helps with getting the meters read faster,
Yep.
or those self-reading meters. It didn't cost anything to get them changed over either.
We have a timeline, the next few years, we want to get every house in the city done. But yeah, mine's been done already also. And then they literally could drive by your house and read your meter without getting out of the car or anything. It's all through Wi-Fi.
Nobody shovels the snow to the backyard
Right,
for
but
those.
they don't have to worry about that anymore. So water department personnel won't have to go in people's backyards once you get this new meter, stuff like that. So it's a really good deal.
Does anybody else have any questions?
President.
Councilwoman Alexander.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
when you give us the document, will it have not just the percentage of what an increase is, but would it actually have a dollar amount associated with it, like we know that
Yeah,
we're talking
sure. No problem, Councilwoman. So like, if it says,
about now?
so like year one, I have a document that has that. It doesn't have it broken down per community. It just says all the communities together pay this at 46 cents. These communities will pay us this at the settlement rate. If that's satisfactory, we can make sure is that all right, Councilwoman?
Yes, that'll work. I just want to know the actual number that they're actually going to be paying
Of course.
overall, because I think a lot of times we hear these percents of increase, but we don't have that dollar amount to actually associate with it. And it makes it look like it's so much more by a percent versus an actual dollar amount.
Gotcha. I agree, especially when you start with a real small number like 46 cents. So I appreciate that, Councilwoman. It'll definitely be on there.
Any other questions on this issue?
I appreciate you letting me speak, Mr.
You
Mr.
got anything
President.
else?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4 on the agenda, number 3, reading of the minutes.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from February 8th, 2021, be placed on file, please.
Second.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Spitali to set the minutes, or accept the minutes and place them on file, seconded by Councilman Tyler. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 4, approval of claims.
Mr. President,
Councilman Rakos.
make a motion we pay claims beginning dated 2/16/21 and ending with claims dated 2/17/2021, claim 595 through claim 783 inclusive, the amount of $4,443,391.
Second.
Motion's been made to accept the claims as written or as submitted by Councilman Rakos, seconded by Councilwoman Venez. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Venez.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes, let the record show 9 in favor, 0 opposed. The claims are approved. Item number 5, public hearings.
Item A, public hearing on ordinance 21-08, sponsored by Councilman Tyler, Councilwoman Alexander, and Councilman Torres. An ordinance recognizing Reverend John H. Parrish, Sr. as the first black councilman in the city of Hammond and designating both the 1,000 and 1,100 blocks of Cleveland Street as honorary Reverend John H. Parrish, Sr. Street.
Does anyone wish to speak on this issue?
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
before we start the public hearing, would love for Clerk Golick to read this ordinance in its entirety.
Clerk Golick.
Whereas this year commemorates the 50th anniversary of Reverend John H. Parrish, Sr. becoming the first black representative elected to the Hammond City Council on November 2nd, 1971, a position he would hold until December 1991. Whereas Reverend Parrish was a resident of Hammond for over 65 years and was an active volunteer in the community and held several notable offices, including but not limited to Hammond City Council President, 2 years, President and Board Member, Hammond High School PTA, President of Brooks House Community Center, Vice President of Scott Middle School Holding Corporation, Community Council Board of Directors of YMCA, Board Member Local 1014 United States Workers CIO, President of Hammond Branch NAACP 12 years, Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, he was an assistant to the pastor, a general treasurer, and a Sunday school superintendent. Advisory Board of Human Relations Commission, and pastor of the First Tabernacle Baptist Church, 27 years. Whereas Reverend Parrish was employed by U.S. Steel Gary Works for 33 years and was the first black person to finish on-the-job training for a skilled labor position in the 1950s. Whereas his life's motto was, if anybody asks you who I am, tell them I am a child of God. And upon his election to the council, he vowed to represent all the people of Hammond, not just East Hammond. Whereas in recognition of his services and dedication to the community, the council finds it appropriate to acknowledge his contribution to our society by designating honorary streets in his memory. Therefore, be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Hammond that the Common Council, on behalf of the citizens of Hammond, duly recognize Reverend John Parrish Sr. as the first black councilman in the City of Hammond and designate both the 1,000 and 1,100 blocks of Cleveland Street as Honorary Reverend John H. Parrish Sr. Street.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to speak during this public hearing on this issue? Does anybody wish to speak? I don't know, IT, is anybody raising their hand on Zoom?
Not that I see.
Okay. Hearing no one wishing to speak, the public hearing is now closed. Item number 6, communications. Does anyone have any communications?
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
I just want to share that with the recent cold weather temperatures that we've had, I've had several conversations with Awana Miller from our Community Development Department about the different warming centers. I know we've had a lot of people on social media asking about places if they could be open overnight so that some of our individuals in our community who are experiencing homelessness will be able to have a place to sleep overnight. As of right now, we don't have any of those places that are set up. We do have, of course, the shelter in downtown Hammond that is available for individuals. And Awana also reinforced that if anybody knows of someone that does need a place to stay, we have relationships with other shelters across Northwest Indiana that we work with to get people placements for. So even though we don't offer an overnight shelter ourselves, we do help those individuals find placements in other cities, in other locations. So if you know of somebody who does need a place to stay, I know today was a bit warmer, but still pretty cold outside. At any point, please reach out to the Community Development Office or reach out to me directly or anybody on the council, and we'll definitely help make that connection. Because I know that we do have people in our city who need that assistance, and we're willing to do whatever we can to try to get them a place to stay. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any further communications?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Vines.
Yes, we all received an email from the firefighters local 556, and I would like that to be placed on file.
Do we need a motion on that, or is it just placed on file, clerk?
President, we don't have a copy of it.
Okay. So are we making a motion to place that on file as far as do we have to have a second and take a vote on it, or do we just have it placed on file?
Right. If you or the council would submit a letter to us, we'll put it on file.
Okay.
We did not have a copy of it.
Okay, we'll get that on file then.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have any further communications?
President.
Councilwoman Alexander.
I normally would do the COVID numbers, but it doesn't seem like the site has been updated. So I won't give a report regarding the numbers, but I do want to just continue to inform people to wear their masks, continue to social distance. I know that with the weather being so cold, a lot of people aren't really socializing as much as possible, but we know vaccinations are out. So if you are in that category to be vaccinated, look into it if that's something that you want to do. Also, as a reminder that there will be a virtual Black History program that will be coming up. I believe it's this Friday, if I'm correct. Barry, you know that date for sure? Is it this Friday? Yes. So want to make sure that everyone tunes into that, to our Facebook Live.
Thank you. Is there any other communications? Any other communications? Hearing none, communications are now closed. Committee reports.
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Vines.
I would like to report on the Capital Improvements Board. We met on February 16th. Ron Novak came before us and gave us some history on the lead remediation in Robertsdale. And that was the extent of our business. The next meeting will be March 1st, and that will be at 4 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other committee reports?
Mr. President?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
No, go right ahead.
No, you go first.
Councilman Tyler.
Okay, so I did want to report out from two different committees. The first is youth. We did not have a committee meeting, but last week I was able to serve as a Youth of the Year judge for the Boys and Girls Club of Northwest Indiana. And I just want to congratulate a youth from our city, Jamarion Moon, who was a student at Morton High School. He is a member of the HAPA program there, so the Academy of Performing Arts, and a wonderful singer. So he was nominated and selected as the Hammond Youth of the Year, which qualified him to be a finalist for the Northwest Indiana Youth of the Year. So got a chance to get to know him a little bit better last week as we interviewed him and the rest of the finalists for that award. And he's just an outstanding young man. So in the future, I do plan on honoring him with a resolution, just given everything that he's already achieved as a young person. So just wanted to acknowledge him. And then coming from the Streets and Alleys Committee, I just wanted to acknowledge that a lot of residents are reaching out with regards to the snow and either their alleys still being blocked or their driveways being blocked as plows come down. And of course, we want to encourage residents to continue to use the 311 app to request assistance there, but just also want to share that our streets and sanitation crew, they're doing an awesome job keeping our streets clean. And the snow has to go somewhere. And unfortunately, I know in my house, that means sometimes it goes in front of my driveway, and I might have to go shovel the front of my driveway 2 or 3 times after the plow comes through. And it's just, as of right now, it's just the way it's set up. What you can do in terms of trying to prevent that is if you shovel on either side of your driveway, then it'll have less snow to plow in front of it. So that's just a note. I know we also have a lot of senior citizens or individuals who are disabled who have issues with plowing their snow. And I did want to share that the Greater Hammond Community Services Incorporation has assistance for senior citizens. Also know that the North Township, they were pretty swamped with this most recent snowstorm, but they also have shoveling assistance too. So you can reach out to either 2 of those groups, and they will come out and help you shovel your snow or shovel it for you. And I also get out as much as I can. So if anybody in the 3rd District or anywhere across the city needs assistance, please reach out to me directly too. And either I'll come out or try to get somebody else to come help you too. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just add to that it's been my experience that every time we have a snow like that on a weekend or a holiday, it's always worse because there's more cars at home and it's harder to plow streets with all the cars sitting out in front of the houses. And I know I got a lot of complaints about plows plowing them in, but when you got that many cars at home all day, it's very hard, and I commend our plow drivers. Anybody else have any committee reports?
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Venez.
Yes, Councilman Tyler, when is the virtual ceremony for the Boys and Girls Club?
That is this Thursday at, give me 1 second. It's this Thursday at 6 p.m.
Alrighty, thank you.
No problem.
Is anybody else?
And Mr. President?
Councilwoman Venez.
Yes, I would like to report on Crimewatch. We do not have any meetings coming up in the near future, but I would like to give a couple of tips to our residents. When you're at a gas station or you're warming up your car in front of your house, don't leave the vehicle running unattended. That is an invitation to a ne'er-do-well to come and take your vehicle. So please, don't leave your vehicle running unattended. When you are out and about, try to park in a well-lit area And when you are out and about, try not to travel alone. Bring someone with you, and please practice safety precautions such as looking and observing your surroundings to make sure that there isn't anyone hanging around you, and if they are, please drive off to avoid any situation. And it's always a good idea to keep your cell phone with you at all times, especially in this weather. And there are a lot of scams out there. Please be very careful when answering your phone. If it's a number that you don't recognize, don't answer it. If it's an important message, they'll leave a voicemail for you, and you can choose whether or not to call them back. Be aware of any scams that are looking to for donations, for COVID, or advanced loans, or something like that. Under no circumstances should you give any of your information to anyone over the phone. As usual, we need to protect ourselves and our family and our community. Please wear a mask, practice social distancing, and wash your hands as often as you absolutely can to prevent the spread of this virus. And if you have not already, as Councilwoman Alexander said, please sign up to get the vaccine as soon as possible, because community is not just about me, it's about us. Thank you.
Is there any other committee reports? Councilman Tyler, is the council as a whole bringing out a ordinance tonight?
Yes, sorry, Mr. President. We would like to bring out 21-08 for third and final reading.
Thank you. Any further committee reports? Committee reports are now closed. Item number 6. Ordinances, third and final passage.
Ordinance 21-08, sponsored by Councilman Tyler, Councilwoman Alexander, and Councilman Torres. An ordinance recognizing Reverend John H. Parrish Sr. as the first black councilman in the city of Hammond, and designating both the 1,000 and 1,100 blocks of Cleveland Street as honorary Reverend John H. Parrish Sr. Street.
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
I move for final passage of ordinance 21-08.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Tyler for final passage and adoption of ordinance 2108, seconded by Councilman Spitali. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander.
She's froze.
Yes.
There you go.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vanez.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes.
Warpo.
Yes, let the record show 2108 passed. I'm sorry. Is that 2108? Yeah, 2108 passes, 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
President Warpo, that concludes the reading of the ordinances for final passage.
Thank you, Clerk Golick. Introduction of ordinances, there are none. Resolutions, there are none. Item number 11, new and unfinished business.
Mr. President,
Councilman Emerson.
I'd like to make a motion for the reestablishment of the Cumulative Capital Development Fund on 3/8, a public hearing on 3/8/21.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Emerson for the capital, I'll find it here, for a public hearing set for March 8th on the can you read it by title one more time?
Capital Development Fund and the request for the Cumulative Capital Development Fund public hearing on 3/8/21.
Motion's been made by Councilman Emerson, seconded by Councilman Torres, that a public hearing be set. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Is there any other new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
I just want to, I know it's been mentioned a couple times already, but want to remind everybody that our city's Black History Program will air this Friday at 10 a.m. Of course, given COVID, it's an all virtual program, but you can watch it live as it airs on the Go Hammond Facebook page. And then I also want to just encourage residents, if they're having any issues, to utilize the 311 app, as that is the quickest way to submit those to the council and to the different departments. And there was one more thing, but I'm getting old, so I forgot it, but thank you.
It's okay, you had twins. Does anybody else have any new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Councilman Emerson.
I would like a request for a public hearing on the appropriations of money into the 2021 Gaming Fund on 3/8/21.
Motion's been made for a public hearing by Councilman Emerson on the gaming money on 3/8/21. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Emerson. I'm sorry, motion made by Councilman Emerson, seconded by Councilman Torres. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Anybody else have any new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
I remember what it was. Thank you, Councilman Emerson. It was regarding streets. I know that we just got our return back in terms of the first quarter return for gaming funds. And so I want to let the public know that if you do have requests for street lighting, please get those in to your councilperson or to the Capital Improvement Board so we can take those into consideration, not just only for this quarter, but for the entire year, as we do compile the list of the streets that we would like to fix or improve, as well as the streets that need street lights or even tree removal if you have problem trees in your neighborhoods. So just want to make sure that you either use the 311 app or reach out to your councilperson or councilperson as a whole to submit that information or submit that request. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any new and unfinished business?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Venez.
I know it was mentioned before, but I think it's worth reiterating. I would just like to acknowledge our street department. They have been awesome throughout these snow events that we've had. They worked many, many hours, and they did an excellent job keeping our streets clear and safe for our residents and those driving through Hammond. So I just want to say hats off. You guys are all awesome, and I thank you very much for the job that you do. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Alexander.
just to piggyback on regarding our streets department, they are doing an amazing job. And I want to encourage residents that when they're coming down the street, if you can get your vehicle moved so that they can get as close to the curb as possible, that would help them out. A lot of times cars are not moved. We hear them coming. You can, kind of say, hey, can you come back through in a few seconds if we get cars moved, to kind of help yourselves out to save you some time. But it's really up to us as a city as a whole When we know snow's coming. We've been dealing with snow in Northwest Indiana for a long time. But if you can be out there at the same time to kind of help out, get that car out of the way so you can get that spot clear, then you won't be sticking things in the street. And just know that if you do stick something in the street, they probably will run it over because it's not supposed to be out there. I know we like to save our spots because we've shoveled out, but at the same time, it is part of an ordinance that we can't have those things in the street.
Thank you.
Especially when they're coming through. And now that the weather is getting warmer, I'm pretty sure they're going to come through and try to get some stuff cleaned up as the snow is melting. So let's help out and do our part as a city. Thank you.
Any other new and unfinished business?
Mr. President, the street department's done one damn good job. I live on a cul-de-sac, and I'll tell you, they came up and down there 3 or 4 times. We had cars parked on the side, and they were taking their time, letting some of the guys move their cars out of the way. They did a damn good job.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Kowinski.
the street department now is taking the large mounds of snow and using their front loaders and loading up dump trucks and moving those large piles into parks and other areas so that they can begin to eliminate a lot of the large hills that have accrued on corners, etc. And so that started, I believe, on Friday. That's going to take a while to get through the whole city because they have 3 front loaders to use across the city to get these large mounds out of the way. So that's the undertaking that's taking place right now from the information I got from the first district foreman. Just wanted to pass that on. And again, they have done a great job. They spent a lot of hours over their usual work hours to clear our streets and alleys. And I share frustration with some of our residents that it does get piled back in to the area that you just dug out, but that there's really no way to get around that, it seems, when we have 2 feet of snow down in just a couple of weeks like we've had. So kudos to our guys and girls. Thank you for all you do in the long hours.
Thank you. Any other new and unfinished business? Councilman Tyler, that being tired from having that babies turns into selective hearing as they get older, so.
Mr. President, I do have one more thing to share, and I apologize for hogging the mic tonight, but I would be remiss if I didn't celebrate the recent victory by Hammond High, the boys basketball team. They are #1 in 3A in the state of Indiana for the first time since, I believe, the 70s. So that's something to celebrate. And they actually got a first round bye heading into the sectional tournament, which begins next weekend. Along with that, they played the last game in the Hammond High gym over the weekend. So it was great to see so many different alumni there, people who played or coached there, since the 50s and 60s were there to see the Hammond High boys play. And they won that game, the final game in Hammond High's gym. They won over Chesterton. It was a really good game, and just want to celebrate the coaches, the players, the administration for everything they've done to kind of turn that program around and really be successful over the past 5 or 6 years. And it's exciting. It's bittersweet, of course, that Hammond High will be no more. But I know that change is necessary, and so excited about the new high school and all the different opportunities it'll bring for our students over the years to come. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other new and unfinished business? Hearing none, new and unfinished business is closed. Public expression, we have nobody here, but I see Suzette Quebecki on the phone there. How you doing, Suzette?
Yes, I am good. How are you all?
Good.
I have a concern. The Tony's Car Wash at 3915 Holman Avenue, a notice was put up yesterday that we noticed. There's an application for alcohol and beverage permit. Blue Star Liquor would like to turn it into a beer, wine, and hard liquor store, which I believe would be a 3-way license. And this street has 30 residential homes on the block. Jason's Bar is on the same block. Puddles, $1 has a beer and wine permit. The neighbors on this block, we talked, we're going to be putting together a petition that we are against this. I don't think, and the neighbors around us feel that this is a good fit for this area. I mean, it's highly residential. We're one block away from Pulaski Park. There's children on the block. Our property values in all across Hammond have considerably risen in the past 2 years, and I think this would be a detriment to this neighborhood. So I just wanted to let the council know that this notice for this type of business in this residential area has been posted. The hearing is on March 3rd.
Thank you. The only other person I see on Zoom is Laurie Cazzulo. Did you want to speak, Laurie?
Thank you, not at this time. I appreciate the offer.
Okay, nobody in the audience that wants to speak? Hearing none, Alex, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.